Hello, it's David at DSES UK, and bloody hell, Nige, that diet is working wonders for you. You look better than ever.
Thank you.
This is, of course,
Amy the Sparky.
Amy the Sparky, who, if you happen to have June's edition of Professional Electrician,
That's so cringe.
with this fat guy on the front in his anorak, on page 29. On page 29
And 30.
and 30,
Double page spread.
read all about it right here in June's Professional Electrician, on the account of your local wholesaler. I tell you, if you're going to stick somebody on the front cover of Professional Electrician, it needs to be someone a bit prettier, you know what I'm saying? And on the back of Professional Electrician, we have this thing, the TIS MFT Eco, no less. And we actually have one of these things. You might have seen it in the background of previous videos, which has been sat there for a while, hasn't seen a lot of use, but today we thought we'd put it through its paces. Starting with a bit of an unboxing to see what you get in the box. And we also want to have a look at how it compares with its bigger and far more beaten up big sister, the MFT Pro, which has been in my possession since 2018.
Nice.
Well, you were still at school in 2018, I imagine, weren't you?
No, I'm old. I'm nearly 35.
Fuck off.
I am. I'm nearly 35,
Shit,
honestly.
I don't know. You know,
good moisturiser.
you heard it here, folks. So yes, let's take the case out of the box, shall we? And we'll have a look at just what you get for your money. Your money being about 749 quid, looking at Toolstation's price with the VAT. Soft case. What do you think about soft cases?
It's nice. It is a very soft case. I don't know. I think I'd actually prefer a hard case. If I'm honest.
Yes, indeed.
I would prefer a hard case.
Because you don't have a tester, do you?
I don't yet. No.
So what have you been using? You've been using.
I've been using
Megas.
a Mega that belongs to a guy that I work with.
You know the problem with a Mega? Also a soft case.
Yeah.
Now, I get that on the Eco to a certain extent because the aim of this is to be a lower cost tester, which is fine, And, you know, there have been certain concessions between the more expensive model and what someone might. This has more features than you would perhaps need, so why pay for the more expensive features? We'll have a look at what the differences are. Indeed, there are features on here that I've never used and still don't know how to use today, and probably never will. But going back to cases, I've said this before, and I know I keep bending down here. I should have prepared more for this. You can't beat the flute box. No. You can't beat the flute box. The flute box just has all those extra nooks and crannies for your lock-off kits, your torches, your probes, all those little accessories and bits and bobs you want to carry around. Your your R2 thing, clamp meters, fuse finders, non-contact probes, etc. And you know you can stand on that. Probably shouldn't do. Sit on that. Or probably chuck that in the back of your van.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
And your expensive investment is protected. So, especially with Mega, who charge some quite high-end prices for their high-end stuff, don't like to see it in a soft case. I had a soft case with my Metral, and I use it for keeping my video camera in actually, but it's busted. Even doing its relatively simple job of looking after my video camera, which doesn't go out on the van very much, it still managed to get beaten up and busted. What do you think? I don't think it's a soft case is good for what is perhaps the most expensive investment you're going to make outside of your van.
It's not. You are much better with a hard case. Especially, I used to the company I used to work for. The apprentice used to just literally chuck the kit in the back of the van, and he was always getting shouted at for because we had one of those.
Now I don't know what the back of your van's like, but
mine's super tiny. Honestly. Everything's got a place.
Do you vacuum it and everything?
Yeah, I literally do.
Mine gets tidied up every 6 months to the point, only when the point where it's like, oh shit, I need something that's buried there and I just can't get to it anymore. It's just chaos back there, chaos. So soft case is not a fan, but I quite understand why it's a soft case in this arrangement, because it's aimed at being a more budget product. Yeah, which is fine. It's fine. Let's have a look at what we get in soft case, shall we?
Got two sections. This is just the bit where the actual tester was.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to get my other camera here. This is very high tech, this setup. I'll just film.
Hello.
film the
So
case.
yeah, that was just where the tester was and the manual.
So they do give you a manual. That's always handy,
It's
isn't
a
it?
bit like a lunchbox, isn't it?
It is.
It's more
Yeah,
like you could put an ice pack in here and put your signers in. Your
signers and
bells.
beer in one side and your MFT Eco in the other.
Um,
Now that's an interesting thing.
yeah.
I didn't get one of those with my MFT Pro, wherever I've stuck that, but this is, well, what is this, Amy?
It is a probe with a test button on the probe. If you haven't got your 16th hand, press your
This is it, yes.
test button.
I do find that that can be a bit of a problem, well, with any tester really, but especially with the Pro. Juggling the microphone here, she'll want a clip-on mic as well. Because the Pro only has one test button, which means you're kind of holding it like that sometimes, because I never use the straps with these things. And you're also trying to hold 3 probes in place if you're trying to do like a ZS test on a lighting circuit or something. It gets a bit tricky, a bit of a handful. The advantage that the Eco has is you have left and right go stop buttons instead of just one on the right. So that's that aids with the ergonomics of holding the thing. Added to your push button probe means you can stick your probes into place without having to fish around for the go button or go buttons.
I feel like we're on an aeroplane and I'm like doing the thing. And this is a probe.
I think that is compatible with this actually. I could steal that and put that into there. But I won't. I've gone all these years without one of those. Even when I had one with my Mega, I never used it. It was just, it was too cumbersome.
Right.
Who needs it?
What else we got?
Ooh. What have you got there, Amy?
We've got a plug-in thing. I can't remember what it's called.
Plug probe? I don't know. Yeah.
Plug-in probe
13 amp
thing.
Plug probe thing. Marvellous. Ubiquitous, of course, with every tester. Now, there is something interesting about this, isn't there, that we're going to point out later on in the way it works.
Yes.
Something a bit that could trip you up, and has certainly tripped me up on the Pro in the past.
Yeah. Right. We're done with that one.
Yeah. Your standard lead set. Nice thing about these leads, of course, is that they're non-proprietary. So you've just got your standard leads and lead ends there. If I, again, with my lack of planning, go off camera for a moment and fish out to the leads that go with my Metrol, it's got this clonking great connector on the end, which is completely proprietary. And if my leads get lost or damaged or just get to end of life, because they all fail eventually, don't they? And you start giving you spurious results. I've got no choice but to buy the Metrol version. And I would say, if you're buying leads, buying replacement leads, do go for a proper brand. Do pay the money. They're usually about like 60 quid or something, but you've got to get the proper stuff. I know Nige, the reason why Nige's Mega never gets used is the leads failed and he got some off eBay and they're shit. And they're just unusable. It's just money wasted, thrown away. You might well have cost them 20 quid, but what's the point of paying 20 quid for something you can't use instead of paying 60 quid for something that's going to last you a good couple of years or more, depending on how much testing you do and how roughly you treat your equipment, of course. What else we got, Ames?
We have got...
Oh, you just dropped all them in the bottom of the bag, didn't you?
I picked it up upside down.
That was my fault for not sealing it.
It was your fault.
GS38 probes with detachable GS38 ends. Not a fan of GS38. What do you think about GS38?
No, not a fan.
I find that obviously you're supposed to have 2 to 4 millimeters of probe tip. I find the 2 millimeters just doesn't get where you need to stick
small,
it.
And then that bit's so fat, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
that is
not
another
useful.
good point. Yes, fairly fat-ended with stubby knobs, so to speak. No offence, Nick Bundy.
Oh, you're savage.
You'd expect it.
Clips.
Clips. Nothing controversial about them, are they? They're probably about as effective as all tester clips, which means that as soon as you clip it onto your earth bar, it pops off. Yeah.
And then you do it 10 times.
One day someone will invent a clip that
Clips.
clips.
Straps for your lunch bag.
Never figured out the straps. It's got some kind of funny 2-strap arrangement.
What, like a rucksack?
You kind of one goes around your neck, and one
for
goes
the
around your
actual
waist.
thing.
Yeah.
Really? No,
Yeah.
Sounds complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a fan of straps anyway. You notice none of my testers have straps on, except for the Metrol. That's the only one that's still got its strap. I always found they kind of just flapped about and got in the way, and I didn't like to wear the thing around my neck anyway, unless I really had to. The Metrol still has its strap, but
that's just one for the actual bag, I think. I don't know for this. And then there was one more thing which I'd never seen before until today.
Do tell. Oh, it's got one of those.
What is it?
I didn't know it had one of those. The only time I've seen these is with Fluke gear. And if Amy can get it out of the bag.
Sausage fingers. Can you see it?
Yeah, I've got one of those. This is the Fluke version. That lives here. And I always think, I really must put that in my tester box because it's bloody handy. Sparky Ninja did a video about these a few years ago and about the horrendous cost of them, or at least the horrendous cost of the Fluke one anyway. Made out of magic metal or something. If you'd like to hold the microphone for a second, right? I shall do the demonstration. Which is if you've got your probes all plugged into one of those RT unit. I can't be asked to bend down again and pick it up. You've got your probes all plugged into your RT unit. You can put that between the pins to get your calibration. So the 3 prongs where you can plug your probes. So when you're doing your calibration, you're nulling out your leads. You can use that to connect them all together. Personally, I prefer the Metrol way of doing it again. Let's bring back my Metrol leads. Because the Metrol leads allow all 3 to connect together. Whereas the leads with all my other testers have always allowed the neutral earth to connect together, but the line is separate. So yes, when your line is separate, you do have to use some kind of jiggery-pokery like clips or one of these nulling devices or some way of joining them together to null it out. I think that's a much simpler way of doing it. Works for me. More of that, please, manufacturers. That's what I'd like to see.
Okay.
Right.
That's it.
That's
everything in the
it
bag.
for unboxing. So let's move on quickly to the differences between Big Sister and Little Sister. And the main difference being the display technology. You can see it's the same form factor. It all runs off AA batteries. Both have a stand at the back, so you can stand it up, which comes in handy. Instantly with batteries, always recommend the Eneloop, picture of which is on the screen right now. A complaint I hear about this is that it eats through batteries, especially with its colour display. I don't find that too much. I get on quite well with it. And the reason being I use some decent Eneloop rechargeable batteries. Duracell, shite. Energizer, shite. Eneloop,
Brilliant.
so says Amy.
Fantastic.
It gets the,
Never heard of them. But I'll start using them from
that's
now
the
on.
Amy Barrett sing thumbs up. But yes, Eneloop's worth the investment. They cost a bit, but they'll drive a tester like this for quite a while. So yes, I will recommend it. But you can see the difference is that's got a bigger display actually, hasn't it, than that?
Yeah.
But this has got a colour touchscreen display is the main difference there, whereas this one is menu driven. Fine. Where do you stand on displays? I say displays. Personally, I when I was buying my Metrol, which was a year before the MFT stuff came out, I was at a Lex, and they had this, which is the MI3100S, and they had their next model up, which I think you've used, haven't you? Which is the touchscreen one. Is that the one you played with in the past? With the Metrol?
No, it wasn't touchscreen.
Was it another one like this?
It was like that, but
Right.
a bit bigger.
So much for that story.
Sorry.
It's written down.
Ruined that for you.
But what the guys on the stand were saying was the touchscreen is better because there's fewer moving parts, there's less to go wrong, there's less to get dust in, you're not going to get dirty contacts, all that sort of stuff, which I understand, and which is all well and good. But I must admit, being old school as I am, I do like to see a dial, and I do like to see what I've selected, and I know where I am with it. I know that what's on the screen relates to what that's pointing to. I get that. When you start getting into touchscreens and into embedded menus and stuff, you can sort of lose track of sort of where you are a little bit, I think, and what setting you're on. Now, I don't find it really that much of a problem, to be honest. It doesn't confuse me that fucking much. But
Good.
you know what I'm saying? If you've got something, if you've got a dial that's pointing at a function that's actually pointing at something, you can see what it's doing, whereas if you're in a menu, you've got to remember which menu you're in, and it is possible to misselect. In fact, I've done it when pissing around with this stuff today. I've been had the wrong thing selected as I'm doing my test. Oh no, I'm on the wrong shiz. What do you think, Ames? Where do you stand on menu selections?
I've used this one only today, or had a look at it today, and then I've used the Mega, like I said. I've used a couple of different Megas, and then the other Metro, and I prefer that. I like the way,
You like the dials.
I like the dials, and I just think, I don't know why, I just think it's simple to use. It's more self-explanatory, and or sort of flows easier as you're using it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's something to be said for having a pointy thing pointing at something. But that said, I get perfectly with this. In terms of the testers I use, the Metro and the MFT Pro come out on the van. The Pro is the one that lives in my everyday toolbox, so perhaps sees the most use. The Metro, though, is nonetheless my preferred tester because it gives me more information at a glance, which we shall come to. The only other difference is I've got a flap on this side with a stick in it. I believe I'm supposed to use the stick for touching the screen, but I have other sticks that I can use just more effectively.
Built-in sticks.
This is it, so I don't think the stick has ever left the flap.
Okay.
At least not on that model. This I got second hand from Cash Converters for 500 quid.
Bargain.
Yeah, and I was a bit sniffy about it in my initial review at the time. And the main thing I was sniffy about was the continuity function only went up to something like 20 ohms or something, which if you're doing like your dead testing R1 plus R2, your R1, R2, RN, etc., 20 ohms more than you'll ever. If you're getting results around 20 ohms, well, it's fucked, isn't it? So it's like
technical term. Yeah. What's wrong with this? It's fucked.
Well, so we don't need a really high number. The trouble is, the first job I went to use this on was to measure an underfloor heating map, which is like, I don't know, 400 or 500 ohms or something, and it just says off scale high. And I'm like, oh, well, that's that then, isn't it?
Tea break.
So I was a bit sniffy about it. It got left in its box in the corner for a while, and I felt a bit guilty that I wasn't using it. And here's a weird coincidence. It's weird how these things happen. Isn't it? Weird. I after about 6 months, I was like, I really should do something. I paid 500 quid for it. I should do something with it, and I put it on the van in its hard case. Bear with. I should have thought about this as well. And it's rather nice.
Wow.
Foam lined hard case. That's a decent hard case. So I stuck it out on the van. Happened to go to a wholesaler who I don't normally go to because we were over that side of town, and who should be there but the TIS rep. And I said, oh well, yeah, I've got your machine. I just don't use it because the continuities are too low. It needs to be higher. All my other testers go up to 1,999 ohms. He said, oh, we've got a firmware update. I'll stick it on for you now. And they stuck it on, and since then I've had an off-scale high of 1,999 ohms. Marvellous. Instantly transformed into being useful to doing what I needed to do. How weird that should happen the same day. That I should go to a wholesaler I don't want to go to, bump into the TIS
Fate. Meant to be.
Someone was smiling on me that day. It's had a couple of other firmware updates since then, which have changed the look and feel. Well, the look of it certainly. It used to be quite that colourful. The only thing I don't like about the display of this is that if you're in a dark room, it's very in your face, very bright, and you can't always see the buttons you're pushing. I don't know that there's a way to really adjust the brightness of it. This one, the brightness is a lot more adjustable, and it's down quite low at the moment. It's you could do with being turned up actually in this room, couldn't it? I think, but it's coming out all right on camera.
It's all right on there,
yeah. Like I say, this has some of the functions that this lacks. Power quality. Never used it. But if you apply the probes along with this very expensive clamp accessory, then you can actually take some power quality readings. Leakage currents, that is useful. This is the only tester I've got, the only MFT I've got that will measure leakage current with this very expensive clamp accessory. Voltage drop, I didn't know it did voltage drop. Shows how much I look into the sub-menus of these things. And environmental, you can take temperature readings with another very expensive accessory that I don't own.
Okay.
There's also a memory on this, so you can save results and go into your computer and download them all. Don't use it, because I like to record my results on easy so as I go along. I just don't like the idea, whether it's this or a pat tester, of collating lots of results, getting back to base and going, oh shit, didn't save, or something like that. You know, it's just like, I want my day's work recorded on software I know as I go about it. Have you ever recorded anything? You just record stuff as you go along. You write it down. Yeah.
Always.
Again, that's just my old age, perhaps, but it's the same with pat testing. As I say, I'll just fill in the forms as I go along, and not to keep the data electronically. So in terms of form factor, much the same, except for the screen, except for the fact that this has a connection for my very expensive clamp accessory, which this doesn't have, because it doesn't have the power quality or the earth leakage options. They're not built into that. Or indeed the temperature one, which I've never used. Volt drop, I'm not sure if that's on there or not. We'll have to have a look for that. That's okay. That's okay, because most of the functions on here that this lacks, I've never used.
That's good.
So, you know, if you can get that in a cheaper form, which is perhaps more efficient on batteries because it's not trying to drive a very bright colour display, then that can't be a bad thing, can it?
No.
Trying to think if there was anything else that I was supposed to say about that, but no, I think that covers that, you know. And do you have anything to add, Ames?
No.
It's an unusual form factor, isn't it? I think a lot of people don't maybe turn their heads up at the form factor. You see, you've got your traditional testers like these here.
Yeah.
They're all made to go around your beer gut and to hang around your neck, and you look down on the top of them. They're all made in the same sort of way, the same sort of form factor. So this is more unusual. Why it's made like that, I don't know.
I think I prefer it, actually. It's more like iPad. It's more like holding something, how we hold stuff now, like phones, iPads, screens in general, isn't it, than the traditional.
That's true, yeah. It's one of those things that you quickly get used to if you're used to using the traditional ones. As I say, it was very alien to me, and I was very sniffy about it back in 2018 when I first looked at it. But this fella's, like I say, been in the toolbox since the beginning of 2019 or whatever, and well, you can see how dinked and scratched. It used to be as pristine as that, but now it's all beaten to shit. And you know what? Steve, the very nice man from TIS, who gave us this to look at, he said, "Oh, yours is one of the older ones. So our new MFT Pro, it's got newer firmware on that yours won't upgrade to. Oh, I've got one here. Did you want to swap yours for this new one?" Which is very kind of him. And you know what? I declined.
Did you?
Because all the dinks and scratches on this thing, they're all part of, you know what I mean? It's all part of your job. Yeah. This has got the same dinks and scratches I've got because it's been on the same site, same environments, putting up with the same shit. And that's part of my toolbox. So, you know, you get connected to your tools, don't you? Do you find that? And
yeah.
When you have one that breaks or whatever, it's just, you replace it, it's just not the same. And I don't like shiny tools. Shiny tools mean you haven't worked hard enough.
That's true. It's nearly as bad as when you get new boots and you've got a breaking shiny new boots.
Yeah,
and you look like the new person.
Do you wear the DeWalt's?
No, they're so uncomfortable. Do you know what I
take that back right now.
I hate DeWalt boots. They're the worst. They are the worst.
Get out.
No. I wear the is it Sight? Screwfix ones. I find them really comfortable. You don't have to like break them in. They're just comfortable as soon as you wear them. DeWalt ones literally shredded my little feet.
No, I don't find that. I like the Sight work trousers. I wear those. I find they're quite.
They don't do
robust.
women's.
Do they not?
No, I don't think so.
How 1800s.
I know. Disgusting.
Step up your game, Sight. Come on.
Oh, I bet they do now. I'm just slating them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've not looked. I don't know.
I'm sure someone in the comments will rip us apart. But yeah, the DeWalt boots I even wear on holiday because I'm such a sad twat.
Yeah, that's weird.
I've got trainers on today. I don't normally have trainers, but
Are they new as well? They're
yeah,
also new.
I had to go out and buy some trainers because I just wear the DeWalts all the time. And the trouble is, you go through the airport security and it sets off the metal detectors because of the toe detectors in them. It's like,
Did you want me to think you were trendy? Is that why you bought? Oh, David, so young and hip, trendy, down with the kids.
I am trendy, aren't I?
Yeah, you are.
I don't care anymore. You get to, don't know, 30, you don't care anymore. How old are you?
Oh, nearly 35.
Fuck off.
I know,
Jesus.
nearly 35.
You have had an easy life.
I just wear loads of makeup, don't I? Trowel it on in the wrinkles, smooth it over.
With a well-used trowel, I hope, because again, you know, the tools, they have to look used.
Yeah,
They have
yeah.
to look like they've done the biz. So I declined the offer of swapping that for a shiny new one because, well, it's been doing the biz for me. I'm attached to it.
I don't blame you.
I was rude about it when it first got it, but no, this does the biz for me, and yeah. I'm sure that this is capable of doing the biz for somebody else. So we should probably put it through its paces.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and see what we can do with it.
Exciting.
Yeah, watch this space.